Charting Toward Intimacy covers mature topics. Listener discretion is advised. Your life is running nonstop. You're collapsing into bed exhausted at the end of the day and wondering how sex is supposed to fit into this life. If you've ever thought that we just don't have time for sex, this episode is for you. We're talking about how to finally find time for sex so you can stop feeling disconnected and start looking forward to real intimacy with your spouse. Welcome to Charting Toward Intimacy, the podcast for Catholic women that helps you improve your sex life, strengthen your marriage, and embrace God's design for love. My name is Ellen Holloway. Let's get started. All right, so how do we make time for sex, for intimacy, when our lives just feel insanely busy? And, you know, if you live in today's modern culture, your life probably feels insanely busy. It is the cultural norm to be like booked out, to be booked solid. It's the cultural norm for kids to be in several activities, in a sport and an art and, you know, maybe one other thing. It's the cultural norm for parents to be, you know, volunteering at their school, volunteering at the parish, doing extra work. Our cultural norm is an extremely busy norm. Like the American culture is like, book yourself out. Don't have quiet evenings at home. You know, if you're not doing something, if you're not constantly improving yourself, then you're falling behind. And so I want to speak into like those of us who are living in this culture and we're like booked out and our days are busy and we get to the end of the day and we're exhausted and it doesn't feel like we have time for sex. And first off, before we get into some strategies here, I need to give you some permission. You have full permission to not do any of those things. You don't have to do any of them. Your kids don't need to be in any activities. They don't. They literally do not. You don't need to be doing any additional volunteering. You don't need to be going to, you know, the work get-togethers and happy hours. You don't have to do any of it. You don't. You are allowed to just be. You are a human being. And so one option, if you feel like there is no time for sex, is to really sit down and recognize like, yeah, you know what? We actually don't have to do these things that we signed up for, that we committed to. I don't need to be on the school board. I don't need to be volunteering for this nonprofit. You know, Jason doesn't need to be in band and soccer. You have full permission not to do any of it. Now, next, let's talk about priorities. Now, when someone is asking me this question, like, oh my gosh, how do we make time for sex? I like to flip it back and ask, how do you make time for something that is a priority to you? So I want you to just think to yourself, like, how do you make time for Mass? And your immediate response might have just been like, well, I mean, we go to Mass every Sunday. It's just on the schedule. Okay, cool. Why isn't sex? Why? Why isn't sex on the schedule? I'm being completely serious here. If you're looking to make time to grow in intimacy and unite with your husband, then we need to make it a priority. And we prioritize the things that are on our schedule, right? Jason, made up Jason, goes to band on Tuesday and Thursday because it's on the schedule. You go to your book club on Friday because it's on the schedule. Mm-hmm. You go to your Bible study on Wednesday because it's on the schedule. Why isn't sex on our schedule? And to that, I typically get the response, well, we want sex to be spontaneous. Like sex should be spontaneous. Why? Why are we looking for spontaneity with sex? I truly don't understand why we're looking for spontaneity. Spontaneity means that something was not planned at all. Spontaneity means it wasn't a priority. When we spontaneously decide something, it's typically not important. If we spontaneously decide to buy Cheetos in the checkout counter, that's not important to us. It wasn't on the shopping list. It's also probably not super healthy for us, right? Spontaneous decisions are typically not good decisions. I mean, think about the rest of your life and think about the spontaneous decisions that you make. Are they good and healthy and rightly prioritized decisions? Probably not. Like, spontaneous decisions are not our best decision making. So again, I circle back to, if we're looking to make time for sex, we need to prioritize it. And if you are very, very busy, then truly we need to schedule it. And the only reason that sex might feel closed off or obligatory if we schedule it is if you make it that way. Like, if you tell yourself because it's scheduled, then it just becomes a checkbox item, then it will become a checkbox item. Like that's just how it works. But if instead you schedule it, and that means that you now anticipate it and look forward to it and you plan for it and you get excited and maybe you clean up the room a little bit in anticipation for having sex later that night, or you pick out some pretty lingerie in anticipation for having sex later that night, and you're spending your whole day anticipating having sex, and so your body and your mind are more primed for it, and because you were anticipating it all day, you actually conserved energy in other areas so that you would have the energy and the brain capacity to be fully intimate with your spouse, then sex has actually just gotten 100 times better. See, scheduling sex is not like, I do not understand why scheduling sex has gotten such a bad reputation. Because scheduling sex doesn't automatically turn sex into just like an obligatory duty or a checkbox item. Like, scheduling sex means we're prioritizing it. And if we schedule sex and that day comes, right? So let's say we schedule sex for tomorrow evening and that day comes and just like stuff has hit the fan that day and it's just a mess, right? We're not locked in to having sex that day. You can still talk to your spouse and explain the situation and be like, look, this day was crazy. I was not expecting it. Let's have sex tomorrow morning. Let's have sex tomorrow night, right? You can reschedule it. That's okay. Scheduling it is about making it a priority. So one thing that I want to suggest for you, I want to recommend for you, and this can be helpful in so many more areas than just sex, but I want to recommend for you a Sunday check-in. So I want you and your husband to sit down, 20 minutes, and like check in about your life overall, check in about your week, talk about any like appointments that you might have that week, and what's going on and who needs to be where. And then also check in about sex and schedule your sex for the week on Sunday. So maybe you're sitting down and you're talking about your week and you're realizing, oh my gosh, wow, Tuesday is a super busy day. I didn't even realize it. Let's definitely not schedule sex for that day because I'm going to have zero energy. But let's try for Monday and Wednesday. Let's try for Monday and Thursday. Let's try for every day except Tuesday. Whatever your frequency is, doesn't matter. The point is that you're making it a priority and you're not relying on spontaneity, which is in fact the lowest form of decision making. Like, you're not making good, healthy decisions when you're relying on spontaneity. So Allow yourself to make good, healthy decisions by prioritizing sex and putting it on your schedule and making it happen because it is so good and it is so important and it should be a priority. All right. Let me know how the Sunday check-in goes. When you do it, send me an email. My email's in the show notes. And I want to know how checking in and scheduling sex for the week goes for you. Thanks so much for listening. I've been working on some exciting changes coming soon, and I cannot wait to share them with you. Part of these changes, though, involve closing the current courses available at vinesinfullbloom.com. On November 30th, 2025, that's the end of this current month if you're listening in real time, the courses will no longer be available for sale. Anyone who enrolls in courses or purchases a guide has lifetime access, though. So if you've been on the fence about getting the orgasm course for Catholic women or picking up the Catholic sex positions guide or any of the other courses or guides that I sell, now is the time. These will be closing after November 30th. So go to vinesinfullbloom.com/courses for all of our available courses and guides.